Hello there, and welcome to this edition of Thought for the Week. We have been in the Sea of Galilee area. For the last couple of weeks, we've been looking at the feeding of the 5,000, and what a remarkable miracle it was. In John's Gospel account, he calls it a miraculous sign. Signs point beyond themselves. When you're arriving at a particular destination, if you saw a sign, as for example outside these premises, a sign that says Mulberry House, well, you wouldn't stop at the sign and sit under it and say, "So this is Mulberry House." No, you'd be quite disappointed if you did that. The sign is pointing up the drive to something far more important than the sign itself. And that's like the miracles of Jesus. When John describes them, he always calls them miraculous signs because they're pointing to some tremendous truth about the Lord Jesus. And one of these great signs, the feeding of the 5,000, is a case in point. As you read John 6, there is a surprising little statement that comes in verse 4. We're told that Jesus went up on a mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover feast was near. One of the reasons why John includes that is to account for the enormous numbers that Jesus fed. 5,000, besides women and children. So we're probably talking about 20,000. What were all these huge numbers of people doing around the Sea of Galilee at this time? Well, there were three major feasts of the Jews: Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacles, when Jewish people were required to make the journey to Jerusalem, to the temple, if it was humanly possible. And those who lived in Galilee travelled south down the Jordan Valley, and those who lived around Galilee, that is to say, in the north, in Lebanon, and to the northeast, Syria, and Transjordan to the east, they would all gather together around the Sea of Galilee and together in great groups go down the Jordan Valley for security's sake, because it was quite a dangerous road and the Samaritans lived close by, and as you remember, Jews and Samaritans just did not get on. So there's safety in numbers, and that accounts for these massive numbers here. 20,000 people, some would really query that, but not when you have this note from John that the Jewish Passover feast was near. It makes real sense of it. So Jesus performed this mighty miracle for a vast crowd, and I think it's wonderful that so many were fed when it seemed physically impossible, and indeed it was. But Jesus is master of the situation. Always is, always will be. No matter how great the challenge, no matter how great the problem, you can always be sure that if Jesus is there, Jesus will sort it. And he always will be there as far as his disciples are concerned. You and I are disciples if Jesus Christ is Lord of our life, and we have been redeemed through the shedding of his precious blood. If we've come to that understanding, then we can be secure in knowing that Jesus will always provide everything we need, however great the odds. I'm encouraged by that, and I hope you are too. Anyway, goodbye for now. See you next time.